All right, so now we've got the new world order. Okay, so we've got the old CRM plans and we've got the PACE plans. So that was a massive change, and that was in November 2023. Now we've got October 2024. We've got what the media are terming NDIS 2.0. And this is when we have seen the biggest, most hugest uh, level of reforms that the NDIS has seen since its rollout. So part of those reforms is for the NDIS backtracking a lot on what they were telling us about PACE plans originally. So we were originally told that we could use PACE plans and they would be flexible. We weren't locked into any items or anything like that. However, what we have seen is now the introduction of what are called described supports. So this means that even in the past, when we had a plan that said funding has been included for a speech or OT, for example, you would go, great, thanks so much, but I actually need physio. Because we were on what was called a principles-based system. Whereas now we have got what is called the described supports. And if we use outside of the wording of our plans, we are going to be done for what's classified as a misuse of funding. So that is why we are bringing this webinar to you today. So that and then we must also keep in the back of our mind, and I think a lot of us are still wrapping our head around, is the introduction of the NDIS supports. So previously we were on a principle-based system, so we could say, you know what, I'm buying this standard household item. I know I bought Pippa once an electric toothbrush, for example. I'm buying this standard household item for a disability specific purpose. So therefore I can use my kids' NDIS plan. That can't happen anymore. So we need to be working on the assumption that we are purchasing NDIS supports. And this will be the topic of another webinar coming to you over the next few months, because it's a topic on its own. And today we are just going to talk about described supports. So hold on to your seats and here we go. I think I've already done that. I just got really, ahead of myself. So look, I know that this is very wordy and we are going to have a breakdown. However, we wanted to show you exactly how this stuff is being worded in plans. So as you can see here, we've got an improved daily living skills, and all of our examples are going to be improved daily living skills, because that is a category that almost every single NDIS participant, regardless if they're a big person, little person, adult, would have in their plan. So as you can see, this has some of the key things we need to be looking at. And one of it is that it's got a stated support. Okay, so this is a stated support. And you'll also see that they have used support for, and they put a specific amount to an allied health professional. And then, so we've got physio and a psychologist. But Tara has done a fabulous slide on the next one, which will help us break it down so we don't have to look at all of that word. So what this means moving forward is that there is absolutely no flexibility when there is a plan written like that, okay? So that plan said very specifically that $10,000 has been put in the plan for physio and $7,000 has been put in that plan for psychology. So why are we locked in? And these are the things you need to look at. So we are locked in because they have put a specific dollar amount. We are locked in because it said support for, all right? So it's not going, hey, this is how we've gotten to this amount, which is what they used to do. They are saying this is support for, this budget is for physio and psychology, okay? There's no swapping around, all right? So there's no, oh, could I use $10,000 on psych and $7,000 on physio? No, $10,000 on physio, $7,000 on psychology. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. Do we want to ask some questions, or is that clear about no flexibility with example one?
So with Willow's, hers says it's a stated support, but doesn't have a dollar amount. It just says it just has a range. So that's not this example.
No, not this example, but we do have that example in here.
And then what happens if, so just say amazing physiotherapist, but what happens if they're on a wait list, they can't get in? Is there then room to go back and say, well, we can't use that money because we can't get into it? Can it be moved across to use somewhere else?
So look, let's remember common sense and NDIS aren't generally those 3 words that go in one sentence, okay? So that is a really good example of when you would need to submit what's called a change of situation to the NDIS. You cannot, though, go, hey, I'm on a wait list, but there's an OT that's got capacity that could be helping us with some of these things. So I'm going to use $10,000, that $10,000 for the physio to the OT. In this situation, you cannot do this. You would need to request a change of situation to the NDIS, or contact your NDIS contact and see if they can get written confirmation and approval from a planner for you to do that, but you need it in writing.
Yeah. Okay. Catherine's just said, yes, there will be a copy of these slides, so everybody will get this with the recording of the webinar.
Yeah. What happens if you're using a key worker model? So Dana or Dana, I'm sorry, I hate pronouncing people's names wrong. So again, with a key worker model, it would depend what that key worker's qualifications are. So in this instance, if you got a terrible plan written like this, you would want that key worker to be a physio. But really the key worker model wouldn't work in this situation because you've really only got physio and psychology. With children's plans under 6, it's pretty easy to get a key worker model written into the plan because the NDIA, they like the key worker model. But unless in this situation, if it's locked in like this, unless your key worker has the allied health profession described here, you would not be able to subscribe to that model without a change.
We've also got a question there from Kel asking how long does the process take for getting a change? I think this is one of those, well, how long is a piece of string? Unfortunately, there is no rhyme or rhythm for how long these things take. Certain things within the NDIS have legislated timeframes of, say, 28 days, but we all know, unfortunately, that's not the reality. And some things seem to move faster than others. We just don't know in this changing world of NDIS how long these things might take. From a plan management perspective, at Kindship, we have had quite a lot of success with participants or their nominees contacting their LAC directly, or their NDIS contact, depending on who their sort of contact is for their planning. And in some situations, we've been able to get clarification in writing from them on how the funding may be used. But again, it depends on the wording of the plan.
And I guess once a support coordinator, always a support coordinator. I can't sort of come back from that. Just be careful with your partners in community. Okay, so we've got the early childhood coordinators. I can see our question box blowing up. Yeah. So you have your partners in the community and you have your LACs who are the NDIS contacts. They are the ones who are supposed to go directly to planners and delegates, okay? They actually have no decision-making power. So if you are finding that your partner in community is saying, no, you can't do that, or no, we can't do that, tell them bollocks in a nice way. And I would actually ask for a different NDIS contact or put in a complaint or go directly to the National Contact Centre because that is their job. That is their role. And the other thing that just with the change of situations, there are escalation criterias, okay? So NDIS, they don't publish this, but we can get it through Freedom of Information. So there is this matrix with all of these different categories that you have to tick. So let's just say you put in for a change of situation and it's for something, I don't want to say minor because I know that it's not minor to us, but let's just say it might be to have the wording of to get permission to use the physio budget changed to an OT, okay? That in the escalation world is going to be down here, all right? And so with a change of situation, there's a legislated response time of 21 days. It's next near impossible to get that. And then it needs to then go to a delegate, which is then another 28 days up to there, all right? So whilst you might then start ringing at 8 weeks past submitting this, they are going to look at your plan and they're going to go, you've got funding. There's no risk to your home environment. There's no risk to the participant themselves in terms of they're not going to be homeless, they're not going to die or anything like this, because those are the things that they look at. So as a rule of thumb, unless your budget is below $1,000 and or there is a severe risk to you as the carer or the parent, you are near on impossible going to get it escalated within the NDIS framework. So that's a hot tip for you.
Okay. Move on to example.
Yes, let's move on to example 2. Now, I can see all of these more questions, but we will answer, they're more specific questions, okay? We'll answer them general questions. We'll just try and keep to the questions specific to the examples at this point. Yeah. Okay, so here, and I think this is the example that Tara used for Willow's plan. So we've got our funding amount, we look and we're like, yep, it's stated. However, support for a physio, OT, and speech pathologist to help you. So this is a little bit better because there is no dollar amount. However, there is still quite limited flexibility here, and we'll break it down on the next slide. Okay, so here it is, I guess we could call it semi-flexible because it still states physio, OT, speech. However, you can choose how much of that total amount. So in this situation, it's $14,500. So if you only want to spend that on physio or you only want to spend that on OT, that's up to you. This would be a good budget where you could use a key worker model because it's highly likely that your key worker is a physio, OT, or speech pathologist. However, if needs change and you need a developmental educator, a psychologist, a continence assessment, this is the other thing that we're finding coming out of this is trying to get nurses for continence assessments and delegation of care. You can't actually use your improved daily living funding anymore for that if your supports are stated like this, okay? So in this situation, physio, OT, or speech, you can spend whatever you want on each of these disciplines, but that's all you can access.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is how Willow's is set out. So in a circumstance like her OT is on maternity leave, so we've been using more of her physio budget, and yep, you can do that through this. So what about if I was thinking though, okay, well, her OT is not here, we really need to work on that, but I can't get into one while she's on maternity leave. I can still only see a therapist, so I can't be like, okay, but this social skills group is run by an OT. Can I use it?
The social, yep. So if the social skills group is billed as an OT, like an OT facilitating it, you absolutely could. However, if you are doing group work, make sure that the company is not billing you for 1 hour of OT direct. It's supposed to be split across the number of participants in that group. And allied health professionals hate me for this because I'm a stickler on it. So if Willow was doing that with 3 other kids, that $193.99 should be split across those 3 kids. But as long as it's being provided by an OT, that would be fine.
Right. All right, we'll move on to the next.
Okay. So so this is example 3. Now, this one is much better, okay, because as you'll see, we've got support for a multidisciplinary team of allied health professionals. So this it's still not great because I'll get into that after, but in terms of compared to the previous 2 examples, this gives you complete choice and control in terms of who you access because it is allied health professionals, and we'll break it down. So as you could see in the breakdown, there was no exact hours. There was no description on who it was that you could access. So it would need, in order to be considered an allied health professional, the NDIS price guide has a list of everyone who they would consider an allied health professional. Basically, you can look at it and go, would this person be able to be registered under APRA, which is the Allied Health, come on, compliance lady. What does it stand for? Allied Health. Oh, they're the board people that, you know, your OTs, your nurses, your physios, they all need to be registered with them.
Australian Prudential Regulation Authority.
Thank you. And so that's actually stated in the price guide. So the only thing that what we're seeing the complete removal of with these described supports, though, is that gone are the days of training for parents and caregivers. So we, in the past, I know as a support coordinator, I used to run, we could provide training sessions for parents on how to utilise their kids' plan, and we would bill through improved daily living skills under training for parents and caregivers. However, we can't do that anymore because we're not considered allied health professionals, and we're not providing a capacity building service in that context of improved daily living. So this is where you're going to hiccup. The other thing is also in the past, you could use, there was a line for support workers in improved daily living, and that was around increasing independence in accessing the community and self-care skills. So the wording like this does not allow that flexibility, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm yet to see an allied health professional actually, work for $67.56 an hour.
Yeah. Okay. There is Did you?
No. Yep. Sorry. You go.
Want to wait to the end, or?
Oh, sorry. I'll have a read. All right. How does this translate to accessing and engaging allied health assistants that work within and under the direction of therapy plans, as this is also how plans can be stretched and utilised? This is a great question. So at present, the understanding is if the discipline or the profession that is listed in your plan and you use an allied health professional for that, that's fine. So let's say you use an OT allied health assistant, okay? If OT is written in your plan, that's not a problem, because allied health assistants, they technically have to be under an allied health professional anyway. If you have got an allied health assistant working for you and they aren't doing the program that is implemented and created by your OT, that's not a compliant allied health assistant, and I would recommend ceasing services very, very quickly. So basically, rule of thumb, if the allied health profession is listed in that plan and you've got an allied health assistant under that, you should be absolutely fine.
Okay. And then back to the support worker. So they've used capacity building daily for a support worker. So this will now be impossible with the PACE plan if it's written like this.
Hi, Vicky. Yes, it absolutely will if it is written like this, unless your support worker is an allied health professional. So we are going to talk about ways that you can try and navigate around this wording. However, I want to manage realistic expectations. At Ally Disability, we're doing this every day with planners, and we are yet to get the wording of allied health professional removed from the description. We have tried desperately, and we are just not having any luck. It's not to say that you can't do it. However, in these situations, I think a lot of families need to be asking themselves, how much do you need this support and how much are you willing to fight for it? Because the only way that you could go after going through the agency is to the administrative review tribunal, and that would be another webinar topic as well.
Yeah. Okay, we might move on to the next one, and then we can go back and look through some of more questions.
Okay, yeah. All right, so this one, I really wanted to throw this one in because this one's a tricky one. And I think if you looked at this example really quickly, you'd go, oh, well, I'm done because it's got 15 hours for dietitian, 25 hours for psychology. However, when you go down to the third paragraph, it actually says this funding is flexible within the budget for improved daily living skills. So this is kind of doing a new way of presenting, I guess, how we used to see plans built, where they would tell us, look, we have funded you for 15 hours dietetics, 15 hours of XYZ. Okay. So that's them justifying to us how they got to the $22,500. However, this is then going on, though, to give us permission that we can still use this funding flexibly. So this is why it's so important to read the wording, because if it says allocated for, funding for, actually just going physio OT, you're locked. However, when you've got words like this funding is flexible within, then you are all good to go. But again, it still says allied health services. So in this instance, again, you wouldn't be able to use flexibly for those parent capacity building programs if it's not run by an allied health professional or a support worker. So yeah, and I think we've covered that pretty much. You control everything, but also just keep in mind when you do have a funding plan written like this, if you use all of your money, say on OT, but then on your next plan reassessment, you again go, well, I want speech, dietetics, psychology. It's going to be really tricky to get that over the line because you were funded for all those things in the last plan period and you've used all your funding on OT. So if you can provide evidence and justification as to why, that's fine. But things are really being scrutinized now. Choice and control is honestly now, I feel like, something that the answer from the agency is, well, you still have choice on what dietitian you engage and what what psychologist you engage with. This is now, I feel like, the watered down choice of control that we're seeing.
Right. Yeah, so when Willow had hers, they mapped it out like this, saying, okay, we're giving her this for that and this for that. But in her plan, it didn't actually state it like that. Yeah. But I guess that's how they were building it. So
sorry, Tara, that's a really good point, because I just want to just talk to that, because everyone will still get that. Okay, so that's called the implementation notes, essentially. So when you get a new NDIS plan, you and your NDIS contact will get a breakdown exactly like that. And I really think it's important that we differentiate that for everyone here today, because basically the wording in your NDIS plan is what we call the statement of participant supports. All right. Now, I'm not saying this to make you guys fall asleep, but this is the wording in the legislation. So this is the statement of participant supports. What we have when we've got the planner going, hey, you know, we've done exactly what you've said, Tara, where you're like, well, this is what we funded, but in the plan it's different. That letter doesn't really have legislative weight. Okay, we consider those as your that's their working notes. Unless you're a plan manager, and that's a conversation for a whole other day, I think, Tabitha, around spending within intention of the plan. But from a legislative perspective, that is literally just a planner going, this is how we came up with the figures. All right. If they want you locked into something, it needs to be written in the statement of participant supports, which essentially is your NDIS plan.
Yeah, okay. So what else I was going to ask, so he was saying all that, can you say in your plan, say why you want your plan written a certain way and why you think it would benefit you? Or is it just like the luck of the draw? Like, no, you're going to be example one of what we've shared today. Like,
absolutely.
Why do some people get example ones? Why do some people get example 4?
It depends on the planner, and it's honestly, it's luck of the draw.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. It's that thing on, you know, we've all been to enough therapy where we know we'll meet a speechy and go, I freaking love you. And then you'll go to another speechy and go, like, it's not that, you know what I mean? Like, it's honestly, it's luck of the draw. And you don't know if that planner's driven into work that day, had a fight with their partner, crashed their car, their kids told them they hate them. You know, they are human beings like us as well. So yeah, it's you've got no control.
Right.
There's a question there from Lauren asking, for example, 4, can you still use this on physio?
Can you just go back a slide, Tara? I just need to look at the wording. Yes, you can, because so whilst it's listed, or actually now we've got NDIS supports and impairments and all that hoo-ha to think about. Okay. So for the purpose of answering this question, Lauren, I am just going to keep it really general because we're just talking about wording here. But with all of the changes, things like what we call notice of impairments and eligibility and stuff does impact how we spend our funding now. So I'm just going to pretend that your child would meet the physical impairment stuff for now. And so the way it's written, it just says this funding is flexible within the budget for improved daily living. So that's saying that you are absolutely fine to use physio in that sense.
Right.